What is going on, guys? I've collected and reviewed and discussed all sorts of attachments for the Total Gym, the Great Flex, and various sliding bench trainers. And I kind of was necessarily intending to do this video, but after talking about the pros and cons of the weight bar attachment and kind of cleaning up or trying to clean up my garage with all these different various attachments, most of which I don't really use, which is kind of why I want to get into this video a little bit. And also I have a whole chest downstairs full of Great Flex attachments and other kind of random attachments that go with this equipment. I wanted to give you guys kind of an update of sorts, kind of a quick overview of my personal pros and cons of each of the attachments. Some of these things have broken over time. Some of these I practically don't really use. Granted, all this stuff is my personal opinion. It's kind of where I stand right now. If you guys watch my channel, this is a kind of a gradual evolution of my thoughts on these things. So I might have recommended something in the past, or maybe I didn't. A lot of these things, my opinions have kind of stayed the same, but some things have broken. And I've just gotten a little more efficient with my training. So kind of keep that in consideration. Maybe 20 years out, God willing, if I'm still making this content and talking about this stuff, I might have strong opinions about an attachment maybe I didn't like. But I want to give you guys kind of an overview of where I stand with attachments. And then at the end of the video, I want to talk about what are the few things that I actually use, because now I've really boiled it down to be merely simplistic. I've gone back to kind of the beginning of my grassroots when I first started using this. We're using really simplistic attachments. Again, this is just my opinion. I will put tons of timestamps down below and links down below in the description box if you guys do want to help me support the channel with picking up some of these various attachments, because they might work for you. But without wasting any time, hopefully this is not a long video because I got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'll try and be as concise as possible. If you like this video, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. Let's jump right into it. All right, first, just getting into squat stands. Total Gym has all sorts of squat stands. Great Flex has a squat stand, larger squat stand option. I'll talk about that too. All sorts of shapes and sizes, different functions. I've said in the past, because I've collected various Total Gyms, that some of these squat stands have other various uses, but really, is it worth you guys picking up and investing in smaller versus larger squat stands? 9 times out of 10, I wanna give you guys kind of an overview. Those are kind of the small ones. You have ones that are kind of more versatile. That's like this larger squat stand that has the Pilates bar attachment. This thing is kind of cool, a little more versatile, but limiting in the fact that you can't use your kind of this lower plate for anything. So if you're looking at, if you don't have a Pilates bar, this might be good, but I don't really use this thing as much. When I first got this, I was using it. It's just a little cumbersome to kind of switch these in and out. It's not that cumbersome, honestly, but if I got a Pilates bar, I'm just gonna use that. But as far as all these various little squat stands and large squat stands, if I were to just say one opinion, it would just say get the larger squat stand. It's just the most versatile thing. A lot of these other ones I tend to really not use as much as I used to. Now granted, I've been transitioning back to doing a lot more leg stuff off the machine. That's kind of a love-hate relationship, honestly, with this machine, but just been doing that. The larger squat stand, what I like about it is because, yes, it's versatile in the sense you can use the lower part and the top portion, but also for pressing things. Getting into kind of like, we're just gonna go all over the place a little bit. Even the Pilates bar attachment. I used to use this, and I do think this is an awesome attachment. I don't use it as much as I used to, only because if I got the larger squat stand here, I will just jump right into kind of these kind of like chest presses that I've shown many times. I drip a bar across it. You can use that with here. You can do a variety of presses with this, but if you're only kind of considering one versus another, I think the larger squat stand might be the best one because it's the most versatile thing. Granted, you can do things like calf raises on here. Now this is one I made a video on earlier. And again, Total Gym is not perfect. Some of this is just constructive criticism here. And this is just also me just heavily weighting these things down, testing to the limits. I bent this one a while back, doing kind of heavy, I think it was calf raises with my feet out here, so it couldn't handle the excess weight that I was placing upon it. I still use this thing, I just kind of switch it around. Didn't happen with the other squats, with the other Pilates bar. You can see I have multiples of these things. But as far as just staying on the Pilates bar attachment, really that's the only functionality I use that for. I mean, I know this thing is for quote unquote Pilates, and defining what Pilates is that's a debate in among itself. I don't use, you guys might use this for something else. You can do things like dips, but as far as what I practically use this thing for, I use it for a lot, just more like so for pressing. And so if you're deciding between one versus another, I would say the larger squat stand. If you want to get a kind of a close second to, if you want to say stands that attach to the bottom, the Pilates bar would be a close second, but probably not necessary depending on how you're going to be using it. One quick note about this squat stand on the Great Flex, because we're just on squat stands. I'll probably insert this back here a little bit. On the squat stand for the Great Flex, I complained that it kind of had this bend to it. If you're going to pick up a squat stand, you want more of a cheaper price, you can find it on Amazon. I'll link it in my Amazon store. And I said the Total Gym one really holds up really well, very strong. I mentioned in a previous video that I kind of bent the Great Flex squat stand. I have heard from the company and from some of you guys that they have built up that squat stand to be a lot stronger with the metal. So supposedly that squat stand quality has been improved. So if you're looking for like a budget friendly squat stand, maybe consider that Great Flex. Moving on to like the stepper, since we're talking about stuff that attaches at the bottom, this is kind of helped me actually motivate me to do this video. Someone asked again about the stepper. I did a review on this. Personally, I don't really use this thing, to be cut straight to the chase, guys. Some people do like it. Again, some people do little steps with it. I find it a little cumbersome. It's a little limiting. I did some unique things with like trying to force these things into like hard leg presses, getting in a certain angle as way I was pressing it. And it does work. I mean, it's good, but again, it's probably better just to get off the machine, do some other leg stuff. That's kind of where I'm starting to stand with some of these things. You can do some, little mini plyometric bounces. Some people, like I said, do use this thing for stepping. I personally could not do that. I would kind of lose patience and it would just feel uncomfortable for me at least doing that. But stepper isn't the best attachment. That's just, again, these are all simply my opinion. Moving on to bottom parts of the machine. I got stuff everywhere here, guys. I feel like Mr. Rogers, when he used to kind of pull out all this stuff. I'm thinking that's, or maybe I'm getting confused with Mary Poppins. But anyways, the Cyclo Trainer 2, this is the cheapest kind of cycle. This thing looks cool, right? I mean, it's a novel, whoever thought of this idea, it makes sense so that you could just do a cyclo and put this on here. The only downside of this, me personally, again, some people like it, is the resistance setting isn't the highest, so I always have to crank it kind of full bore to do it. You can do some cool things like bridging and cycling. I've kind of shown that a little bit. I've tried to really force like this a little bit, but if I was me personally, again, I would probably jump onto a cheaper upright bike, an Airdyne bike, which is off to the side here. Actually, probably looking at getting another one soon, but something like that. I just don't find it very comfortable if you're doing this for long term. Now, granted, again, some people do like this, but for its basic functionality, you could get something similar to this, probably cheaper. You could just sit in your chair and pedal it, and I think it would be a little more comfortable, and you probably would get more resistance. So that is the Cyclo Trainer. Now, something that is another attachment that attaches to the bottom of the Total Gym, this will also fit probably the Great Flex model, is this foam roller. Now, this is kind of something that when I first thought, okay, this is definitely kind of just maybe more of a gimmick thing, and they kind of threw it on there. This thing's very underrated. If you're into foam rolling, I made a whole video saying that this is probably the best foam rolling kind of feeling or device I've gotten because you can apply your weight and adjust various inclines and make it kind of personalized for you. I'm not a huge foam roller. I had a history of doing that a lot in the past. If you got like specific knots and stuff, then that's where I would make the case of doing foam rolling. But regardless, if you are someone who likes to foam roll and you do have a Total Gym, this makes a lot of logical sense. I love how you can adjust the various settings. This is, like I said, an underrated probably attachment, but for most people, I don't know if they're really gonna use it as much. But if you do foam rolling, I would definitely highly suggest picking this up. Okay, now we're gonna talk about top machine attachments. This thing, and I should probably have started with this whole thing. If you're gonna order any of this stuff, go on Total Gym Direct and actually look and see if your model fits it. You might have noticed in the Apex models, they have like thicker pins versus the Fit and XLS has thinner pins. Sometimes they say you can interchange some things and they're really loose, but I might be mistaken on that. This is, I forget the official name of this pull-up bar. This comes stock, I believe, with the XLS, and you can buy it separately. It's cool. I mean, people use it for hamstring curls. I tried that. I personally just didn't like it. You can hamstring curl it up there. You can attach it in various top or bottom positions. Again, for me, it's just something I don't tend to generally gravitate towards. It's another option if you guys really wanted to. You can face it towards you or away for shoulder presses down below, but I personally don't really use this thing, honestly, at all whatsoever. All right, next going to a very stock item that comes, I think, on all Total Gyms and even Great Flexes is just some sort of wing dip attachment. It has some little padding here to do like sit-ups. I can actually even press from here down below from a bottom position sometimes. You can press here, you can press up here for pull-ups, also for pulling motions, but also for the inverted presses too. So versatile device, it has a little slant. Sometimes I'll face it towards me or face it away. Definitely cool, it's a useful item. I'll talk about at the end why I personally don't use these. I just opt for the Angles 90s attachments, but even for shoulder presses, these still are probably something that's definitely necessary. This comes with most models, so I'm not really gonna say anything bad with this. So not too much to say honestly about the wing dip attachments. Next thing is the press up bars. This was something that Total Gym was kind enough to send me for free. And they actually sent me a replacement once they kind of found out I broke the other one. But these are two different ones. I'm not sure how they made the black and silver one, if they're different. The silver one seems like it's higher quality as I thought it was. I made a video a while back how I broke this thing. You can see it's kind of bent there. Just doing things like on top of it, doing a push-up. Now, since this thing's called press-up bars, I thought this kind of made sense that you could do that stuff like that, but you can see I warped it pretty easily. I got the new replacement and I already started to kind of warp that one exactly the same. So that'll just basically kind of lets a sour taste in my mouth. They kind of move around a lot too. they were great because you could leave them locked in at the bottom. And I did that for a while, I think last summer, until eventually I just kind of noticed I was really wearing them out. But these were great, just kind of leaving them locked in. I think if you don't put any top pressure on them, like doing things like push-ups, and that's kind of why I like to do them, honestly. But if you just left them in for like push-ups, for inverted presses, I think they'd be good. You can certainly use them for pull-ups. What I really don't like about them though, when they were in even brand new, is they do have a lot of kind of movement to them. So that was kind of a downside. It's up to you. I know some of you guys, again, love these. Some of you guys do like these things and leave them in, have no problems. But since I've been breaking these things too much, after I kind of had couple too bad experiences with them, I don't use this one either. Okay, Tri-Grib Shaper Bars. These things are also cool. This is one of those items, and even this one, honestly guys, don't pay attention to this middle black part, but even this one I've kind of warped a little bit. And that's because if I'm on this side and I'm doing some pressing, but even pushing this way, I don't do a whole lot of pressing, like I said, when I kind of did the damage to the other one. I think they gotta do something with this metal though, guys. It's just my call out to Total Gym, is that this metal here needs to be a little bit stronger to handle some of the loads. Granted, I don't think I'm pushing it that much to the limits on these things, but these things otherwise do work good for pull-ups. If you're gonna buy these things, I would say just stick maybe to the pull-ups to avoid maybe some of that wear and tear, but different angles from here to here. This gets into the territory of like kind of a luxury item. Like, do you really need these things? Probably not, but that's one of the advantages of a Total Gym or a Great Flex, whatever, is you have other options. Things don't get kind of stale. But of course, if you're using other things in your gym, there's other ways to kind of not be stale as well. So Tricep Shaper Bars, again, cool, novel thing. Not something I've been using that often. And you're noticing a theme here, guys. I do not mean to like kind of bash the attachments. It's just me personally, as I'm kind of evolving, kind of going back to what I've been doing recently, haven't been using these either. All right, Tricep Dip Bars. I'm already getting a feeling I'm gonna get some people very upset, but I'm just letting you guys be honest. Tricep Dip Bars, as I said before, it's kind of, if you watch my channel enough, you know you don't see it that much, so that should kind of give you guys a clue that I don't use them as much. I do not like them for dips. I think they're a little uncomfortable. I think if I'm gonna do a dip, I think it was face up is the one I kind of prefer for the dips, but face down I don't like as much. Just gonna put your shoulder in a weird kind of increased extension before you start that I don't like as much. I don't get as much. There's so many other things I would like for triceps versus these tricep bars. I do like them. I don't know if it's worth buying it for that, but it's something I don't know if it's really worth the energy to put in for them, is putting them on the top of the Total Gym and putting them underneath like this and doing a variety of different kind of pulls. So that's cool. Again, we're getting into kind of a luxury, you know, purchase if you guys want to mix things up a bit. All these things are a little pricey, which is kind of why I want to make this video, so you guys can choose the best things that fit your budget and needs. Now going into maybe one of my favorite attachments, and that is the ab crunch attachment. Great Flex makes one as well that is perfectly functional, not as comfortable, I'd say, as the Total Gym version. This was a great one. I mean, this is something that I always say is one of the best ab exercises, if not the best abdominal exercise that you guys can do on a Total Gym. When I used to go to the gym, that little ab coaster thing, I forget what it was called, it's basically the same kind of thing, or ab sled, whatever it's called. I used to use that a lot. I loved that for just my abdominals. So this kind of gets into the territory, again, if you're gonna be using it. Lately, in the last few months, I put this on and off, and I haven't been as consistent about using it. But if I was going back to like focusing on really hitting abdominals again, this would be one of my go-to items, along with like my ab mat or my roller out there, just like whatever my, what do you call it, the ab wheel thing. So great attachment. If you guys don't have this, highly recommend picking up. Make sure, again, you get the ones that is fit for your machine. I think I've tried this in the Apex, and I don't know if they sell it or market it for the Apex, but at least this one, this came with my fit. If I get the Apex one, it fits in the hole, but it's really wobbly. It's functional, but not as secure as I want. So I'm not sure if they make one that's specific for the Apex. Otherwise, great attachment. All right, now getting into handles or just hand grip attachments. I was trying to stay just with stuff on Total Gym, for at least this stuff we're kind of reviewing here, but this Total Gym makes something similar. This is not the Total Gym version. I bought this off of Amazon. You can find this on my Amazon store, but whatever, you know, price works for you. I think Total Gym is pretty fairly priced as well though on their website. So these are just some Tricep Ropes. It's not too obvious. These are great. Again, this is one of those things if you want to mix it up from time to time for doing things more so for pulls, triceps. I will do things like hammer curls, but given at this incline, I don't like it as much for hammer curls unless I'm in a full inverted version. So these are definitely just one of those things that are useful to kind of switch on from time to time to kind of mix it up. I used to say in the past, I haven't done it as much honestly with these, as I would just kind of, in the start of a workout, just throw them on and just start messing around with them. And then when I kind of don't think about them, I take them back off. So these are good. It just depends if you think you're going to use them. So I think you have to go out and pick them up. Not necessarily. I think you can do a lot of things with the standard handle, which we'll talk about here. What I was gonna say is with the tricep ropes, you know, if you wanna get some of the same functionality for some things like triceps, pull downs, you could really just go in neutral mode on the handle, and this feels really good too. So really great stock handle that I think comes with most total gyms. All right, now talking about the chrome grip handles. You guys know I love this thing, but there's some unfortunate news, or at least just showing you how much I really stress test these things. You can see that I just noticed this literally the other day, that I have kind of warped this handle. I don't know if you can really, and this one's kind of going too. I don't know if you can really see that, but this one is really getting bent out from me doing a lot of stuff, putting a lot of pressure on it. Granted, I do load some extra weight on here from time to time. I'm not sure when this happened. It could have happened a long time ago. I just noticed it the other day, just looking at it, this thing just looks kind of warped. That is very unfortunate. Maybe I might find some other ones that can withstand that. Now, of course, there is another one out there. I did a review on this. Randy Huck at Huck Products said, and this is according to him, that his handles are much more superior. Again, he makes them in the USA, I think with some foreign parts, but high quality, he said. I just said when I did the initial comparison, I didn't like this slant for some things, that overall for the variety of exercises, I liked the design of the chrome grip handles from Total Gym. But unfortunately, like I said, I am not gonna be using these things because they broke. So I'll be going to Randy's for a time being, unless I find something else that is comparable. Definitely let me know down below in the description box. I'm not saying these are bad. Honestly, for most people, I'm sure a lot of you guys have had your original chrome grip handles. They used to put on the original machine. It might be fine. It just be maybe for the work that I'm doing to them over time. I've stress tested these things. So that's just kind of one, maybe slight design flaw as far as how much force they can actually hold. So after all that being said, if I had to start all over again for scratch, or if all my stuff was just stolen tomorrow and I had to start all over with getting, you know, slotting men's training equipment, what would be the add-ons or attachments I would pick up? Now I'm gonna deviate a little bit outside of Total Gym's stock attachments. Nothing against them. I just think there are some other things I would prefer to pick up. And this is just coming from my own personal evolution, using this machine over a period of time. A lot of these kind of thoughts have been coming in my head again because I've been messing around with the Proform Ultimate Bodyworks, which was my old Weider Ultimate Bodyworks, which was like the first slotting men's trainer I did. I didn't have the luxury of all these different attachments. We had some basic stuff, a small squat stand, some resistance bands at the bottom that's for really functional as far as increasing resistance on the fly. I really like those. But I loved their pull-up bar attachment. And you can see there's some clips here you could put a pin in there. I lost my pin in my old Weider years ago, or just kind of started deciding not using it. It just took less time to kind of just not use it. So I loved this thing, and I've been loving it again when I've been trying my Proform, because I can just put this in up top, it stays up top, it gets out of my way, and I can go into pull-ups whenever I kind of want to. And then when I want to go into inverted presses, I just pull it out, put it down on the bottom, and I just go right into it. I just love the basic functionality and speed of changing these things out because you can do a variety of things, and all of them kind of hit on all cylinders. Now granted, this thing's not perfect, none of these attachments are perfect, but the big important thing and where it counts is that I have my original Weider one. This is the newer one, I believe. But even my old Weider one that I had, it was still very strong. The metal didn't bend. I put that thing through a lot of forced tension, diverted kind of downwards on the machine, doing push-ups, certainly tons of different pull-ups, and it withstood the test of time totally fine. So I wish Total Gym had something like this, but given the nature of the machines, they're not really set up for that. And so that's why recently, once I started to just, save myself some time, not using the wingtip attachments for pull-ups, this is just my personal preference, I started using things like these Angle 90s attachments. I do have a discount code down below. These things can be expensive. It saves you money going on their website. They do have knockoff versions on Amazon, which I previously started using. There's love-hate with those knockoffs. I mean, obviously, they're certainly way cheaper, but they're a knockoff product, so I don't usually like supporting companies that are really totally knocking stuff off, but this is a capitalist society, so whatever. But I will say you're kind of getting what you're paying for. According to Angle's 90s, this is Mercedes-Benz seatbelt quality as far as how strong this fabric is. I have my old knockoff ones kind of hanging from my pull-up bars. That's where they kind of sit for doing like banded pull-ups. But why I love these things, I use them so often. Granted, they're just a single use for my pull-ups. They're just very easy, and that's why I kind of like things as far as chaining things together, making it really smooth. And I'm all about being kind of really efficient. If you really want to get certain angles and get different positions to kind of set yourself up with, then that's where these other attachments come in. But if you're like me and I just want to do some straight up vertical pulling, that's all I really care about, and these things are pretty flexible, then I kind of throw these things on. The other necessity, I think many of you guys knew I was going here, is going to be the swivel. I will link this down below in my Amazon store. I tend to get 2 carabiners with a swivel. It adds useful extension, but the biggest thing is how flexible and how fluid. Just feels like butter doing exercises. I could never train at one of these slotting bench trainers without a swivel. And then this might be kind of an honorable mention to these, but given how I've been feeling about the chrome handle breaking, that might just be a chrome handle, feels great. But I will say this is still in that luxury area. I love the way it feels. Maybe I'm just getting kind of used to it. You can get by with the handles, but this would be something very close, second or third thing that I would pick up after the Angles 90s grips and after the swivel. I do want to emphasize the fact too that aside from the swivel with 2 carabiners, it does add necessary extension, because when I'm using these machines, I can actually use a little more. Chains might be up there too. Doing things like seated overhead pressing, depending on the model, you can top out the machine. And so that's why some little extension as simple as this, these little counterparts here, actually work out really well. And then finally, just based on the model, you probably want to upgrade the squat stand. That would probably be the biggest thing I'd pick up. Not so much for, yes, the leg department, obviously, but it depends. If you're not going to do as much legs, it's not a big deal. But only because I want a wider base so I can do things like a bar or kind of a chest press down below. Granted, not everybody can kind of fit into this, and that's where your own kind of abilities and needs might come into play. If that's not you, this might not be totally necessary. And if you're not going to use this thing for legs, the squat stand might not be a necessity. But for me, doing things, give myself some more options for the lower body and also the upper body for presses, I probably would go with the larger squat stand, either from Great Flex or Total Gym. I would say the Pilates bar would be close to that, but if I only had to pick one, it would be this for a period of time, because I tend to, whatever's on the bottom of the machine is what I use. So this is all on there. I think I'd probably be fine, not necessarily even need the Pilates bar attachment. Now that is really it, which might be surprising. I did not say the weight bar attachment. That's only in recent kind of mindset and kind of thinking about if I had to jump into a giving with how I've been training the machine at this point in time, I probably, yeah, at some point, if I had a Total Gym that had a weight bar attachment option, I would go ahead and definitely pick this up at some point, because it, again, adds versatility. It makes sense just to do that. But if I got band tension, if I can use band tension, granted, everybody likes doing that. You gotta use it at your own risk. I get by a lot just with basic band tension that I might not necessarily need the weight bar right away. Hopefully that answers a lot of questions and an update as far as how I'm using attachments and which ones I like and their pros and cons and issues or mechanical issues they have going on. If you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, love to hear your thoughts on it. If you guys have an attachment, it could be a non-Total Gym attachment you guys think is worthwhile, definitely shoot me an email, drop in the comment section. I'll definitely for sure take a look at that. Of course, I review those things as well, but we're just focusing in more or less on the Total Gym stuff. So that is it, you guys.